All right, popping in here real quick to do a little reality TV banter, some conversation about this TV show on Bravo TV. So, Real Housewives, 20 years. Now, you could be like, oh, it's reality TV, it's mindless, it is a guilty pleasure, and all those things are true. But because they're celebrating the 20th season and Real Housewives has, withstood the test of time for 20 years, the question had come up, which show out of all the cities in terms of the franchise, which put the show on the map? Originally, it started with Orange County. Obviously, New York had a big moment. Even up till now, Rhode Island is definitely making moves and is exciting and it's sort of refreshed. But the question is, out of all these shows, how many cities were there? Let's think about the ones that aren't around anymore. Dallas, DC, and Miami aren't around anymore. But the ones that started it off and had success and still do are, of course, Miami, OC, New York, New Jersey, Potomac. Oh, Dubai is not around anymore. There's a London one. The show is a really big show. But the question is, and Beverly Hills. Everyone loves Beverly Hills. Everyone loves Kyle. I always liked Camille. I always liked Dorit, Erica Jane, Erica Girardi. Anyways, the question is, which of the shows sort of put this on the map? Which city? And to me, I gotta say, I want to say Orange County because of the originality factor. But the reality is that show actually, in my opinion, was more so just coming off the concept of, there was a TV show on ABC, a scripted series, and it was Desperate Housewives. So they were sort of stealing the name in a way, or the likeness. So it really wasn't that original. And to be honest, it did paint a good picture. It did have this whole concept of like, what's it like to go beyond the gates of living in this wonderful, rich, and affluent Orange County lifestyle. And it was good, but I don't think it put the show on the map. And I'll give different reasons as to why which city did put it on the map. And this is saying there's not one answer. Of course, in the comments, you can do that. And if you want to support me too, it's RandomlyRJ.com. And of course, Patreon.com/RandomlyRJ. You could do that too. But again, comment which one you think, which city put Real Housewives on the map. So let's go to New York, because I want to say Orange County didn't do it, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think it's New York, or one of them was New York, because New York was the first time, especially going into season 2, that you started to see, albeit reality TV, you would see the cast reacting to, well, did you see such and such was on page 6 and there was an article that you stated this and you said that. And at that time, reality TV had been around since, of course, the mid-90s, Real World, Road Rules, The Challenge, all that stuff. The early 2000s, Osbournes, Newlyweds, all those shows. But you never saw, like, the Real Housewives in the Orange County era, and even season 1 of New York, which was originally called Manhattan Moms. You never saw it come through where it was like they were referencing sort of how big they became off the show itself. And it kind of gave this more broader picture on how successful this show was. So they definitely get to be in the honorable mention as far as what city put the show on the map. Everything that Bethany Frankel, even though she seems to hate the show now, everything that she did business acumen wise was pretty significant. It did kind of create this moment where you could come onto a show and you could build out a business, and that kind of made a lot of other people who maybe would have shunned the genre to say, maybe getting into this genre of reality TV, though it's lowbrow, maybe I could make a big career move, with it. And I think that's what New York, coming off the page and sort of breaking that fourth wall into like tabloids and page 6 and these articles and blogs, like New York was the first one to do that. Orange County was not doing that. They were a great show, but they weren't doing that. Now, why you could say New Jersey was one that put the show on the map. And again, that's the question. Real Housewives, Bravo TV, reality TV. Which of the cities put the show on the map? You could say New Jersey for a lot of reasons too, because not necessarily the table flipping, but what ended up transpiring with Teresa and her husband at the time. It was, even though it was a little bit of a train wreck kind of a thing, and it was dipping into legal issues, the show had never seen something that big, and it became not a level of, like I said with New York, where it was like, okay, they were like popular, and that's what New York offered, and the business acumen is what New York offered. But then when Teresa got into her predicament, and she's of course grown since then, of course, it became this other version of a spectacle. And that followed suit with Real Housewives of Salt Lake City with Jen Shaw. But I will say that Jersey put the show on the map in a way of, it wasn't like being rewarded, but the show itself certainly held enough weight that if you did get into trouble and legal issues were to arise, the show was going to be amplified in a positive way for ratings, but also this is how serious it all can go. And there was something about that realness of reality TV where New Jersey definitely also helped put the show on the map. And I'm being kind. I'm kind of saying that, well, why choose just one? But again, that is your choice. You could choose in the comments who you think, which city put Real Housewives on the map. I'll always say it's Miami because Miami just gets no love. So I'm always going to go up for Miami. Season 1, Larsa, I always liked. Remember when Larsa and Christy, they'd hang out with Adriana. Marisol was more boring then because she had a job. She was a publicist than she is now. Miami never gets the love, so I always got to put a soft spot in my heart for Miami. Now, obviously, another big name is Atlanta. Atlanta definitely could be a city that put the show on the map because on other shows, well, two things. So Kenya coming in season 5 and Candy coming in, I think, season 2, these are bona fide successful people that had a run and then they transitioned into reality TV. Like I said with Orange County, you didn't have that then. And that was a big moment for Atlanta. But the biggest moment is that you had someone, the whole cast was great, but Nene she became memeified. She was on all the memes, she had all the quotes. And that was the kind of thing that held weight so much longer than even her run on the show. She's always going to be a meme or a GIF, is that the term? The little videos. She's always going to be these iconic moments. And I didn't always like Nene the same way that I like Candy and Kenya and everybody else, She by Sheree. But you cannot take away that Nene and Atlanta and the Nene and Kim Zolciak, the spoofs that would go on. I don't know if there was an SNL spoof. Maybe it was Jersey. But Nene's presence kind of came through the page a lot of ways too, because all of a sudden you have a cast member, because this was not happening on the other shows, New York, Jersey, or Orange County. You all of a sudden had a cast member on Real Housewives of Atlanta, like Nene, where she was essentially doing the show, becoming so big on the show that she's getting offers to be, dip back into the world of acting, because I believe she wanted to act at some point before she was not the Jones. She wasn't keeping up with the Joneses. She was the Joneses. Before that, I believe she wanted to act anyway. I believe that is part of her story. But it was a thing where, again, you didn't see Orange County. They would become popular, but they weren't casting and being put in TV shows. New York, New Jersey, they were sensations, but they weren't getting legitimate acting roles like Nene did when she was on Glee, and then later on she was on, I think it was called The New Normal. So that was a different thing. That was saying, much like I said with Bethany, that you could do this show, and with Bethany, a business success could transpire, but then with Nene, you could become not just popular in the genre of reality TV, you could become popular in the vein of your acting career could take off. And it didn't last for forever, but Nene certainly did do that. And it's funny because in my 1,500 plus episodes, I'm always such a Kenya Moore fan, She by Sheree fan, Candy fan, that I don't give Nene all the love all the time. But something about this celebrating the 20 years, she definitely deserves her flowers. And as asking the question, which city of the franchise of this reality show, which city put the show on the map, I think, Atlanta definitely does deserve to be in that conversation. Now, I love Potomac. I've always thought, Giselle and Karen going tit for tat, their little ping pong back and forth has always been fun. And the show for the longest time had some of the original cast members all the way up until, 8, 9, 10, 11 seasons. But I don't know that I have anything that I could note as what made Potomac put the show on the map, but they were good and they were consistent. Same thing with Rhode Island. They are new. They're sort of on their verge to becoming something. Hopefully they don't have a sophomore slump. But what they did is they rejuvenated the series. The funny thing is, out of all these cities, the only one that I don't really go up for is Beverly Hills. I find Beverly Hills to be I don't want to say average, because they do get so much of a push. The network always shows love. There's such a marketing campaign behind them. They are not just marketed within the network, but they're marketed by way of popular opinion. They're the glitz and the glamour and the wealth and the richness, So they're always getting shown love. So it's hard to say they're not a good show, but I feel like they get a special treatment, and they're still, to get that much of a treatment and still not be, to my standards, that amazing of a franchise of the cities is interesting. I always think, like, you've got Miami, who, they've got to move mountains, and they keep getting canceled. And Beverly Hills doesn't even have to entertain or perform or really do anything, and they keep getting success pushed amongst them. So out of all the cities, it's hard for me to say Beverly Hills put the show on the map. Going off the shows that aren't around anymore, Dubai may have put the show on the map in terms of like an international feel, but the show never really took off. Chanel Ayan, I believe, was the lead on that, but I think Brooks was more entertaining. I think Sada was more entertaining. The gal that was on season 1 who didn't do season 2, she was more entertaining. And I thought that show had a lot of potential, but I guess it just didn't work, And there's other shows, other franchises. There's a London. There's been a Australia. There's been a Vancouver, I think. But I'm talking about the ones that we know the most. And really, it could be anything. It could be what the question stands. You could think it's Dallas. Dallas had a really great run, and there's a lot of rumblings about like Dallas coming back. Dallas could have certainly, and if they ever did get a reboot, they could be the city that does put the show on the map, just because they provided, almost like you were watching Dallas the series all those years ago, they provided a certain level of wealth and a certain upper echelon, very adjacent to like the 1%. I mean, that's not necessarily what they were, but maybe that's what they were intending with the show. But yeah, there's so many cities, so many cast members. I think they all definitely try hard, and they put their best foot forward. It is not easy, the world of reality TV. The few times I've dipped in and out of it, and my 20 years of radio, all of this stuff is so difficult. But I will say there's a lot of rewarding energies about it. And then also, the last thing about it is just, the choice is yours. It's like, it is mindless. It is just goofy. It is just reality TV. What is that called? Like a guilty pleasure. But, celebrating 20 years of anything is a big deal. And it does ask and continue to ask the question, which city or maybe cast member put this show on the map? Because without a city really breaking through, or a cast member really breaking through, does a show have 20 years? Because you could laugh at it all you want, because you're like, oh, it's just a mindless little reality show, and it is. But 20 years of success? I don't know. I think that's a big deal.